Kevin. I met Kevin at the mall, which should have been a warning sign, as I can't stand going to malls. I was eating in the food court. He sat near me. I noticed him and thought he was attractive, but didn't think much of it and kept eating. Soon I could feel someone staring at me. You know that creepy feeling? I looked over and Kevin was staring at me. He smiled at me. He had a shaved head and was dressed very well. In fact, he was dressed so well I felt underdressed. He was not creepy at all. He was wearing form-fitting dress clothes and he had a great body. I smiled and looked back down at my food, as if something really interesting was occurring on my plate. I looked over at him a few times, and he at me. He finished eating first, emptied his remaining food into the trash can, placed the tray on top of the trash can, and started walking my way. He came over and said hi. I was sort of shocked. I'm still always shocked when a guy has the balls to come over and say hi to me. If anyone ever says hi to you, even if you have no interest, just say hi back. He seemed very nice and had a great face, clean-shaven, great bone structure, smooth clear skin, and full red lips. He was really short. I don't normally like pocket gays or mini gays, but many years of dating were lowering my standards. I hardly had any standards at all at this point. He said he was in a hurry and asked if he could get my number. We exchanged cell phone numbers. We spoke on the phone that night. He was single. I asked. He seemed intelligent. He lived in the valley, as did I. He was only a few years older than me. He was saving to buy a house. He was close to his family. Everything seemed great, and we made plans to go on a date. At a certain stage in your life, you must learn to ask more questions about people. Kevin picked me up on a Friday night in his brand new BMW. Friday night dates can be dicey because you might not have enough energy from working all week to be on your game. But I had a good feeling about the night. He said we were going to drive to Malibu Beach and eat on the water. Picture an overcast and chilly night in Malibu. Drinks, dinner, the ocean, waves crashing thunderously in the background, and the infinite water view. It all seemed so romantic. At dinner, Kevin ordered a drink, and another, and another. I was getting concerned because I don't get in the cars of drunk drivers. As he drank more and more, he was getting belligerent and a lot less attractive. You have to be really drunk to tolerate other really drunk people. And then, on our first date, Kevin had the nerve to ask me if I prefer to be on the top or bottom during sex. He then proceeded to tell me he is never on the bottom. Then he said worse things that would make this book illegal to publish. Really gross sexual things that I thought only Asian circus girls could do. He kept on proclaiming he was a top, and it was such a huge turnoff. Drunk and horny are two super ugly traits on a person for a first date. They are perfect conditions for sex, but not a date. Do drinks bring out the real person, or does the real person just start drinking and share too much? I made an excuse to go to the bathroom and instead walked outside to call the cab from my cell phone. That cab ride home from Malibu to the valley cost me $45. About an hour after I left, Kevin texted me, "You're an asshole. You're not even cute. I better not see you out." I have never seen Kevin anywhere in LA since, and I'm not worried that I will. The fact that LA is extremely spread out and overpopulated allows you to go years or perhaps forever without seeing people you don't want to see. One of the benefits of a city poorly designed. Kevin, Angry Bottom. I feel like this writer is kind of starting to slack on his stories. Like, it's kind of starting to get, I don't know, it sounds badly written now. It's a lot of repetitive words, and it just seems like he's kind of coming up with ideas like at the top of his head, because I don't know, these stories are honestly starting to kind of disappoint me, but I don't know, maybe it's just me. Vince. I met young 21-year-old Vince at the car wash, through some flirting glances and a few smiles. He was extremely handsome, in a classic way, like a Ralph Lauren countryside model. He had classic all-American features and great skin. We were both waiting for our cars to be finished. We were sitting in the outdoor waiting area where everyone was wearing hats and sunglasses and texting on their phones. It is ironic that so many people here go out of their way to cover up when the weather is usually spectacular. I know a lot of people wouldn't have noticed Vince. Most people would have noticed his Porsche. I, on the other hand, have seen many of my high school classmates drive Porsches and Mercedes, except me. I couldn't have cared less what type of car he was driving. Actually, I would have preferred he be in a more working-class car. Sure. Nonetheless, we carefully and discreetly shared glances. After an awkward final smile, he finally came over to me and said, "Hey, how's it going?" He seemed really sweet and normal. Clearly he wasn't shy, and that was a huge turn-on, as most people I see out appear to be shy. Confidence, but not cockiness, is a turn-on. We talked for a few moments, and I gave him my business card. He called that night around 10 p.m. Wow. No games? He asked me out to dinner the following Monday night. That worried me, as guys who ask you out on a Monday night are probably busy fucking other people on Friday and Saturday night. Attention, everyone. If someone only dates you on a Monday night, they don't really like you. But I thought Vince was sweet and interesting, so I wanted to have dinner with him. I was pleasantly surprised when he picked me up on time. Being on time is an advantage in every situation. When he came to my door, I noticed he was dressed fairly snazzy with his Rolex watch and now with a sassy diamond stud in his ear, which was screaming midlife crisis and tacky. He was wearing expensive dress shoes and an expensive-looking shirt. I thought, I must be one hot bitch if he dressed to impress, because at the car wash he had looked so ordinary and refreshingly simple. Still, he seemed a bit over the top since I don't wear expensive shoes, nor do I own a Rolex or a diamond earring. Nevertheless, I didn't care too much at first, as long as he didn't start acting pretentious. As the years were ticking by, my dating standards were sinking like a vented canoe with no oars. But had they sunk this low? One of the first things Vince asked when he came into my house was if I liked his new watch. As it happens, my sister and brother own a coin business and deal in high-end jewelry and watches, so Rolex was a recent area of expertise for me. I do love the design of Rolex watches. Unfortunately, Mr. Porsche was wearing a fake Rolex, a Folex. I thought, my god, what a total douche lord. There are few things worse than someone wearing a fake Rolex watch, so I assumed he was also wearing cubic zirconium in his ear. I was also assuming the Porsche, fake Rolex, and gaudy earring were making up for something he was lacking. A grown-up sized penis, perhaps? We were still in my house before leaving for dinner, and I was starting to realize I had made a mistake. Again. What kind of future would I have with this douche? Would we need Louis Vuitton wallets and Tiffany keychains? Now, don't get me wrong, I love the finer things in life. I could easily become a spoiled male diva, in a heartbeat. But I am not ostentatious. I like mutts over purebreds. I like cheap food over expensive food. Oh, that's so me. I prefer to walk anywhere I can versus driving. I don't need to have my Braque du Bourbonnais dog named Mimi walked by the butler. I am more likely to be the butler. Please, people, let us have some perspective. I asked Vince if he wanted to drink because I realized I was going to need to be drunk for this date. After I asked, I thought, if this asks me for cognac or an apricot sour, I will lose it. Fortunately for me, he asked for some water. Now, no one in LA drinks tap water, not even me. Everyone drinks bottled water. So, just to piss him off, I deliberately gave him tap water to see if he would drink it. He drank the tap water. I was pleased to see he didn't care about the water, and I thought maybe I had jumped the gun in judging him. I realigned my thoughts. Could Vince be an okay guy? What does he like? What does he hate? Does he care about people? Would he ever do charity work with me? Does he contribute to society? Has he ever been in love? Has anyone ever loved him? Vince's drinking the tap water threw me off base. I wanted to get to know more about him just in case I was wrong. I am wrong about a lot of things on a daily basis, and this could have been one of those times. We left for dinner. He drove us in his fancy pants Porsche. We ended up at a hip little restaurant/bar in Hollywood. I could tell Vince didn't have much to say when during dinner he blurted out, "Did I ever tell you about the time I was in St. Bart's?" How could he have ever told me anything? We just met. He said a lot more after that, but as soon as he said the word St. Bart's, I once again assured he was a total douche. I don't think to this day I have ever met anyone else who started a conversation with, "Did I ever tell you about the time I was in St. Bart's?" I turned my imaginary hearing aid to silent. Vince kept talking. I tuned him out. He swiftly became Charlie Brown's teacher, and all I could hear was wah, 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 wah. I thought of everything I could do to shut Vince out of my cognitive thoughts. I started thinking about the final Jeopardy questions I knew the answers to. Not many. I started to think about my grocery list. I started to wonder if I had already separated my darks and my whites. I pretended to be the first lady and just smiled a lot in his direction. I thought about naked sailors. I wondered how long it takes a sail to go a mile. I wondered how many dimples were on a golf ball. Don't Google it, it's 300 to 450 depending on the type of ball. Meanwhile, the waiter passed by back and forth several times waiting for Mr. Folex to shut the fuck up. Finally, the waiter stopped and took our orders. I ordered a chicken salad and a martini. I wanted to order a muzzle for Vince and a transporter for me with a side order of "Get me the hell out of here." Vince ordered 2 appetizers, lobster, several martinis, and dessert. Then, throughout our boring dinner filled with conversation about places he had been and things he had bought and homes he owned, Vince ordered more martinis. I wanted to order a bottle of vodka with a funnel or a beer in a paper bag, but I restrained myself. Interestingly enough, and thankfully as well, the rest of the dinner went okay for me. His nonsensical ramblings gave me plenty of mental time to plan out my weekend without him. When I finally got the chance to talk, I made light, stupid conversation so I would appear dumb and uninteresting. "What kind of chips do you like?" "I love barbecue Lays." "I wonder who invented crosswalk signs." Somewhere in the middle of my idiotic rants, St. Bart's mentioned he was a high roller in Vegas. My parents live in Vegas, so when he said that, I figured we would discuss Vegas, and at least that would be interesting. The conversation took a slight turn for the better, as we had seen a lot of the same shows. I am a huge fan of Cirque du Soleil, and so was he. I started to think I had some commonalities with Vince. I thought, oh shit, might I be a douche too? My dinner with Vince was developing into a unique experience for me. I felt a strange attraction and revulsion toward him at the same time, which I found difficult to reconcile. I almost started to think that perhaps I could take Vince on as a project, like a fixer-upper home with good bones but bad everything else. Finally, after about an hour and a half of mixed conversation, some good, some bad, the bill came. Vince grabbed it. I then realized he was going to take care of the bill, and I appreciated that. It was the right thing to do, since he had invited me to dinner and took me to a place that was expensive. Besides, I'd only had a chicken salad and 1 drink while he feasted like a ye old times king. That's when he flipped open the leather bill folder, examined the bill for 1 second, turned it towards me and said, "We each owe $8. I was in shock. Or $80. Oh, I was like, $8? That's not that much. I was in shock. The nerve. The gall. Now I was certain Vince was a total idiot. I don't know about you, but I have never had an $80 chicken salad. And how was it that he could afford a Porsche, a Folex, and a diamond earring, but couldn't pick up the tab when dinner was his idea? I started to wonder if he was a con artist, a control freak, or just plain nuts. I quickly reminded myself I didn't care about him at all and I should stop psychoanalyzing him. So knowing this would be our first and last date, I told him I hadn't brought my wallet because I thought he was going to pay. In turn, he had the nerve to tell me I could pay him when he dropped me off. Can you believe he had the balls to say that? My head started spinning, imagining this scenario that was about to unfold. This guy was going to drive me back to my place in his Porsche and wait for me to go inside and come out and pay him for eating like a fucking pig. The entire drive home, the fact that I had actually gone on a date with this douche lord was making me more and more pissed off. By the time we got close to my apartment, I was really angry at myself and him. But I remained pragmatic and devised a plan in my head. When we got back to my place, he double parked so that I could run up and get my wallet. I got out of his car and went into my building, made sure the gate was tightly shut, and then went into my place. I locked my door, took off my clothes, and got into my sweats. Turned off all my lights, and gladly crawled into bed. There was no way in hell I was going to pay this asshole one single penny of my hard-earned money. Oh yes, he honked his horn once or twice, and my cell phone rang. I turned my phone off. I was not concerned that he would try to come up, nor did I care. I heard his car screech away, and soon after I fell asleep like a baby who just had its bottle. Perhaps I should have just discussed dinner payment on our initial phone call like a hooker. Or perhaps I should send Vince a calculator? Oh, by the way, did I ever tell you about the time I went to St. Bart's? What a douche. Vince, aka $80 chicken salad.